Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
Voice of America, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
We hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the space station.
Scott and Mikhail, you are space pioneers. This is the first time that anybody's been up in space longer than 6 months, and you've been there 11 months now. We had someone from our worldwide audience at VOA write in and wanted to know from Ethiopia, what is your mission? Can you tell us? What is your mission? What are you doing up there?
Well, this actually isn't the first time people have been in space for longer than 6 months. We've had crew members on the International Space Station longer than that, I think a little bit over 200 days. And the Russians have flown cosmonauts on the Mir space station, I think Salyut before that, for a year, and in some cases longer. But this is the first time we're flying this long on the International Space Station. We've been here for over 10 months, and we'll leave in March. We launched in March. And our mission here is to understand the effects, mostly the effects on our physiology and psychology of long-duration space flight, so we can eventually go on to Mars. And the space station is a really unique facility to do this kind of research, and we have it now, so we should use it for that.
What are some of the highlights of your research? What have you found so far?
So there are about 400 different scientific experiments going on here throughout the course of the year that Misha and I are here. And they're in all different scientific disciplines. Some of them, however, are dedicated to our time on board, and those are mostly related to our physiology. There are issues with long-duration spaceflight, and the longer you stay here, the potentially the problem or the problems that can occur with our physiology increase, such as bone loss and muscle loss, effects on our vision, even our cardiovascular health, effects on from the radiation environment, things like that. And we've done a lot of recording of the data. Last week we had an experiment in the Russian segment that used a lot of the imaging technology we have here on the U.S. segment, but using their device that puts negative pressure on our body to look at our, the vessels in our head and our heart and our eyes to see if there's an effect on our vision. And all this data that we've been collecting over there, it needs to go down to Earth and analyzed. And it's really not until the scientists have collected it all will they sit down and take a very close look and see exactly what we've learned and then report on it.
And how is your vision? Have you had any problems with your vision?
I was up here last time for 159 days, and I did have some effects on the physiology of my eyes that were measured actually when I returned. But my experience hasn't been much different than last time. I do notice some effects initially, but those have stabilized. But to add to your last question, what have we learned since we've been up here? One thing I have learned is that a year is a really long time.
Yes, well, I was going to ask both of you, what is the psychology of being confined in this space station for a year? Are you guys going stir crazy?
Well, I'll let Misha speak for himself, but I don't feel like I'm going, stir crazy. I'm not really actually sure what that means. To be honest with you, I don't feel like, I have this, sense of, I got to get out of here, as soon as possible kind of feeling. I do miss a lot of things on Earth. I definitely look forward to going home, but I do, appreciate this opportunity, and I think what we're doing here is important, and it does seem like a privilege. So, on one hand, it's hard, being up here for this long, and but when we recognize the importance of it, it makes it easier. And I'll let Misha answer for himself.
I
fully agree with my colleague and my friend Scott. I can only add that we were selected based on how reliable and how tough we are. So if necessary, we can break this record even further. I wouldn't say this is easy, but I think we could stay here for a little longer and make one more step.
Yes, and I wanted to ask Mikhail this question, that in an interview before you left Earth, you said, if we could send the two presidents up for 2 weeks, problems on Earth would be settled. So what do you think about that now, 10 months later? Is it time to use the space station for such high-level talks? Is this the way to get peace in the world?
Ну, сейчас я могу только подтвердить мои слова до старта.
I can only confirm the words that I said prior to launch,
Потому что я все больше убеждаюсь.
because I become more and more confirmed in the fact that, given how long we've been here on station and during the entire flight, which is a proof, that how we can effectively work together, we, meaning people from different countries, of different confessions, together in space for the benefit of humanity. So I can only confirm my words. If we could send our politicians here for a month or a month and a half, then all the problems on Earth would be resolved much easily.
Scott, let me ask you this. You've taken these beautiful pictures. When you look down at Earth and when you look out to space, what do you see? What do you think about? How does it change your view of humanity and life on Earth?
Just to put this in perspective, I follow the news very closely up here, and we have the news going on in the adjacent module pretty much all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're always kind of hearing it. And you do get a sense that you know what's going on Earth, and you pay attention to it. And you look down at the Earth, there's a window right down here, and you do feel detached from it. And it does, between those two of those things, just kind of following what's going on very closely and feeling some detached from the planet, you do get a sense that there's a lot of bad stuff going on down there all the time. Like the news is mostly bad, and it's it's really unfortunate and really sad that that's the case. I'm certainly not blaming the people that report the news. I'm just saying, as an observation, there's it's mostly bad stuff that we hear about, and it's really a shame, because when we do look down at the Earth, it is such a beautiful place. It's it's our home, and it's a home that we need to take care of. We're all in this kind of like on the space station here. We're all in this together. We need to rely on ourselves for our our survival. I kind of feel the same way about the people on Earth, that when we look down there and get a little bit of a sense of that. And
thank you for joining us. We're out of time.
Because it does look very fragile from space. So
thank you,
do get
Scott.
a little bit of a different perspective, I think, spending this much time away from the planet.
Thank you for joining us, Scott and Mikhail. We're out of time. Thank you for being with VOA.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Voice of America portion of the event.